Hello guys, what's going on? My name is Stone and welcome to my channel Excelerate. This is the channel we're going to kick your Excel skills into a higher gear, and in this week's episode I'm going to bring to you guys something very special. So looking at our Excel spreadsheet here, what we're going to do is we're going to enter in our query function in Excel. This enables us to retrieve data from the web dynamically, or so every day we will update this data set. So tomorrow it will be the 3rd of September, and then we will get the newest data here dynamically through using query. We're also going to play around with min and max formulas, and we're going to develop free buttons in VBA as well. The get data button, this will automatically retrieve the data from the web. We're going to do a refresh so that we also always ensure that these amounts will be in a number format as opposed to text format. And then we're also going to create a graph or amend the graph button here so that we can get this nice looking graph to follow stocks. So guys, this is the candlestick episode. So I'm going to show you guys how to create this candlestick graph where the green bar shows the up, the red bar shows the down, and then in between it shows the highest point and the lowest point that stock reached for that day's trades. So this is very nice when you're tracking stocks on the market. And this particular stock we're tracking is the Bitcoin to USD exchange. So let's try to replicate this in today's episode. So our very first step is going into Google. So I'm here at Google, and then you can go to Yahoo Finance. You can search it there on the web. Let's go for Yahoo Finance. And we're looking for Bitcoin to USD. So BTC, I'm typing in the search bar there, and it should show our BTC-USD there. I'm going to go into this one. It will show us the nice graphs here. It's not a candlestick graph though. It's only an error chart there. So what we're going to do is we want to go to the historical data here. So there's the historical data tab. And this will give us this nice table that we're using on the web. So it gives us the date, the opening value of the stock, the highest it's been, the lowest, and the close. It also gives us adjusted close and volume, which we don't need, by the way, for this exercise. And I'm going to show you with the power of query, we can take away these columns and it will record our steps. So the only thing we need from this website is the URL. So I'm just going to copy this URL, highlight everything, hit Control-C, and then we can go out of our Google back to our spreadsheet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new spreadsheet here. So I'm going to go to New, Excel Spreadsheet, and I'm going to go into our spreadsheet. Whilst it's opening, guys, I've got 130 subscribers at the time of this recording. Please hit the subscribe button down below. It would be most helpful, and thank you guys for your ongoing support. So step 2 will be going into our data ribbon here, data, and we're going to click on this new query drop down button. We're going to go from other source here, and we're going to take it from the web. So this will open up our .NET framework as well, and it takes a little bit of time, but this is only a once-off thing we need to do. We're going to put in our data only once, and from there on out it will be dynamically populated. So it takes away all the mundane input work that we need to do in Excel. So this is a very nice and awesome function, and I hope you guys like this tutorial as well. So as we're waiting for the .NET framework, it seems like it connected, and there we go. So from web, it asks us for the URL. You can just hit Control-V and we say OK. So this will connect Excel with the Yahoo Finance website, and this will retrieve our data. So there it makes the connection, and now what Excel does is it looks for data it can use. So basically it's going to populate a few tables here that it picks up from that website, and that's what we're going to import on a daily basis. So let's check table 2 here. Yes, that's perfect. So it shows you on the right hand side our table that we're going to use. And remember that I said we're not going to use the adjusted close or volume column. So click on this little transform data button. So this will take us into the Power Query editor. There we go. So what we need to do is we're going to tell it we don't want the adjusted close and the volume column. So we're going to remove these columns. So here's the button, remove columns. So as you can see, it recorded our applied step here. So remove columns. So every time when it retrieves the data, it's going to remove those two columns. Awesome. This is perfect stuff. All right. So now let's see how many. We've got about 100 rows of data, but let's say we're only tracking a month's worth of stock. So let's remove rows. So here there's a remove row button here. So we're going to drop down remove, and we're going to remove from bottom. So we know there's 100 rows. We only want, say, let's say 31 days of data. So 100 less 31, that gives us 69. So remove 69 columns for us. So let it see. Yes, 31. Nice. So that works perfectly. And that's about it. And then we say close and load. So now it's going to make that connection to the web. It's going to retrieve those 4 columns that we need for 31 rows. And there you can see it imports it, and it's going to format it into a nice table format as well, which is very nice. So there we go. That's perfect. All right, guys. So next up, we want a min and a max formula here. So in G1, I'm going to hit min, and in H1, I'm going to say max. So the minimum and the maximum of the close we want there. So I'm just going to give it a nice format as well. So I'm going to highlight from D1 to E2. Click on my little format painter here, and I want to format these 2 line items here, min and max. I just want to put them in the middle as well. So you say equals min, open the brackets, in E2 to E32, hit enter, and it's going to show a 0. Why does it show a 0? Because if you see here, it imported text and not a number. So it counts these as cells and not as amounts. So what we're going to do is we're going to develop a button in VBA to recreate those text files into amounts. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on our developer tab. If you don't have the developer tab open yet, quick fix. You click on file, then down below options, and then you will see we're going to customize the ribbon here. And you're going to make sure that your developer box is ticked here to OK. So that will ensure you have the developer tab open here as well. So we're going to record a macro. So what macro do we want? So I'm just going to pin this down here. Right. So I'm going to hit on record macro, and I'm just going to rename this to refresh and say OK. So now we're in recording mode. So what do we need to do? We want the macro to highlight all the columns from B to E, and we want it to find. So we're going to hit Control F for find, a comma, and we're going to replace it with nothing. And we're going to say replace all. So you'll notice it takes away the comma, and then we're going to also hit close here. But this doesn't complete our step. We also need to hit home and click on the little comma style here. So that will ensure that this creates a nice amounts that we can sum up here. And then I'm going to go back to my developer tab, and I'm going to stop the recording. So that creates this nice form that we can, it sums up these amounts, and you will notice the min has, it shows the min as well here. So let's complete this formula. I'm going to say in H2 equals max, open brackets. I'm also going to highlight from E2 to E32, hit enter, and this will give us our nice min and max amounts. I'm just going to go to home and give it a comma style as well. So for graph purposes, I also want to round up and round down to have our parameters for the graph. So in G3, I'm going to hit equals round down, open brackets. I'm going to just click on G2, comma, less 2 close bracket. So this ensures that it takes us down to the nearest 100 there, and we're going to round up as well. So it's in H3, it's going to say equals round up, open brackets, in H2, comma, less 2, close bracket. So that will take us to the nearest 100 there. So this is just for graph purposes, and I'm just going to go from J1 up until N4, or let's go to N3, and I'm going to go and insert a nice border here for our buttons that we're going to develop now. Alright, perfect. So let's insert our graph firstly. So I'm going to highlight from A1 to E32, and I'm going to hit insert. So this will insert our graph. I'm going to go to waterfall graph here, and you will see the second one here in stocks. There's a candlestick graph. Let's say okay, so let's see, didn't pick up, so let's open up once again. Let's try again. Let's go from date. Oh, I think the last one didn't add any values here, so let's try that one again. There we go, perfect. So that gives us our nice chart here. So let's give it a name as well. I'm just going to say BTC here for Bitcoin to USD dash USD. So I'm going to click on the chart title, and I'm going to say equals, and click on P1 that we just entered, BTC and USD. So that will change our chart title dynamically. And let's amend these dates as well. So what I wanted to show these dates. I'm just going to double click on our graph here. I'm going to click on dates here, and let's see if we can amend our access options here. Just want to see, we're going to go to label here, and we're going to put it, we're going to go to number, and that shows us quite nice. I just want to change this date here to month down here, and hit enter. So it just shows the nice August here. And what we're going to do now is we're going to give it a little bit of color as well. So if you go to chart options drop down here, so the down bars, you click on down bars, and we're going to go to fill, and we're going to give it a solid fill. Let's give it a nice red color to show that's the down bars there. And what we're going to do is we're going to click on the drop down once again. Here in up bars, we're going to give it a solid fill, and we're going to give it a nice green shade as well. So now we can clearly see the ups and the downs here throughout the month. But now it's not spaced quite nicely. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to record another macro to ensure our graph is always in a nice format as well. So I'm going to go back to developer. I'm going to record one more macro. I'm going to call this graph and say okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to double click on the graph and just left click on these instances, the y-axis here. So what I want is I want to format this to the min. So I'm going to go to G3, copy G3, click on the table here on the y-axis, and I'm going to change the minimum. I'm going to highlight, Control V, and I'm just going to close this off here and say okay. There we go. It's going to say, sorry about that. I'm just going to close off. I'm going to stop the recording. What I'm going to do is I just want to change this back to a absolute number here. So I'm just going to click here on number and change the decimals. So let's try that one again. I'm going to go back to developer, record macro, and I'm going to say edit graph. I'm going to say okay. So now we're in recording mode. I'm going to highlight G3, Control C for copy, double click on our graph, left click on the y-axis. So I want the minimum here in axis options to Control V, there we go, and hit enter. So that spaces out nicely. And our max is 12,300, Control C. Once again, click on the y-axis, and our maximum will be 12,300. So this gives us our nice column here, and we're going to go to developer and we're going to stop the recording. So that's exactly what we need. Let's just double click this on the left hand side on the number. We're going to just say we don't want decimal places, so I'm going to change this 2 to 0, hit enter. So this makes our graph look nice as well. Perfect. So there's one more button to develop, our get data. So basically we're going to go back to developer, record one more macro. I'm going to call it get data, and I'm going to hit OK. So we're in recording mode. So all that we need to do is we want the macro to go to data, and we want to hit refresh all. So that will pick up the new data set for every day. So if you go back to this data, there you can see it updated, but then again it changed the formatting back to text. So that's why we recorded our first buttons as well. I'm just going to go back to developer, stop recording. Alright guys, so now we're going to insert our buttons here in our space that we created here. I'm just going to go to insert picture. I'm going to retrieve a picture from my device here. So I already got some pictures preloaded. I'm just going to show you guys. There we go. I've got a few pictures here. So I want the get data picture. So you're more than welcome to go to Google Images and get some of the pictures that look more or less the same as these. So I'm going to go with this picture here. So it's going to import my picture. I'm just going to resize it so it fits into my schedule here or in my space. And I'm going to go to right click, assign macro. So assign macro, and this is our get data button. And we're going to say OK. So every time when we hit this button on opening this spreadsheet, it's going to retrieve our amounts here dynamically. Very awesome. But now the refresh button, we can put that in as well. Insert pictures from this device. I've got a picture here that looks like a refresh button. There we go. I'm going to resize it, put it in nicely here. I'm going to right click on our picture, assign a macro, and this will be our refresh button. Okay, so let's test these buttons. Get data. So you'll see it connects to the query. It's going to update our amounts here. There we go. And then we want to refresh the data. There we go. Perfectly. So that turns our amounts back to amounts that can be summed and counted for here. And now you'll see it brings back our nice graph here. So the last button that we need to put in is our amend the graph button. But let's go into the developer or Visual Basic interface as well. Developer, Visual Basic. Click on Visual Basic. It's going to open our coding here. I'm going to open up our module here. And I want to go to our graph one here. So let's see where it puts in our amounts here. So that's the values that it selects. And here's our the edit graph that we can see. So you will see it put in absolute numbers, but we don't want it to have absolute numbers. We want it to represent the amount in our spreadsheet. So I'm going to tap back to our spreadsheet here. So we want the amount, the minimum will have to be the G3 in our spreadsheet. And the max should be an H3. And this is in sheet 2 in my current spreadsheet that I've created here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to Visual Basic. This is our minimum scale. So minimum scale should be sheets, open brackets, open parentheses, sheet 2, close parentheses, brackets, dot range, open parentheses, or brackets, parentheses. It's going to be in, we said it's going to be in G3, so G3, close parentheses, close brackets, dot value. And the same, we're going to copy this sheets here, and we're going to paste it here in 12,300 for our maximum as well. But this is not going to be G, this is going to be H. Perfect. So I'm going to close off this, and now I'm going to insert our last button, last picture here from my device. There it is. See, it looks like a little graph button. There we go. And I'm going to assign a macro, and I'm going to assign it to edit graph. Okay, perfect. So if we're going to click on this button, it's going to take these amounts. So let's say the max was 14,000. The Bitcoin hit $14,000, and we're going to hit refresh here. So you will see the total, it goes back to 14,000 here. But let's say we're going to take it back to round up here, round down, round up, and you say enter, refresh the button, it's going to resize it quite nicely. So if you created this, tomorrow morning, hit this button, hit this button, hit this button, and you're good to go. All right, awesome guys. So this was our candlestick graph, very short and sweet. I hope you liked this presentation of ours. If you really liked it, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, and that's all for me for now. Cheers.